everyone know that besides the white man being the devil, there are other devils on this earth.
Right.
The white man is not the only devil that has persecuted us, that has tormented us, that has lynched us, murdered us, sold us poison. The Asians have done so as well. All the Asians that have beaten your sisters and your wives and your daughters in these nail salons and hair salons, they are devils too.
Right.
All those Asians, whether they're from China or India or Bangladesh or Japan, they are devils too. When they join law enforcement and go and police you in your communities, they are devils too. When they go and stop and frisk your sons and your husbands and throw your daughters against the wall and feel her up because they're sexual deviants, they are devils too.
Right.
All right? Let me get Genesis chapter 19. And we're going to talk about these filthy, disgusting Asians, just like we talk about these filthy, disgusting white men and white women. Just like we talk about these disgusting and filthy Africans and Arabs, but today is going to be about Asians.
Right.
Because in the news recently, Officer Phillip Wong, lieutenant or a detective of the NYPD, just got found guilty. He pleaded guilty for putting his hands and beating people, not only in Harlem, but on 96th Street and Broadway on the 2 and 3 train. But guess what? Just like Peter Liang, who murdered Ikea Gurley back in 2014, y'all remember that, right? He's only gonna get probation. He's only gonna do community service. Just like Peter Liang did not go to jail for up to 15 years for murdering my brother and your brother. Listen, Phillip Wong, he's not going to jail either for kicking and putting his knee and bouncing on a man's back. He's not going to jail for beating men who were handcuffed in the police precinct, having them to go to the hospital to get stitches. He's not going to jail. Because these oppressors, they joined together. They came together with one consent, and we're going to read it too, to come and oppress God's people. You and you and you are God's people. But let's talk about how disgusting these Asians are, because you are better than them. Go to Genesis chapter 19, and we're gonna go to the end. Go to the towards the end of the chapter. We're gonna go to verses. Let's see, I think it's 22. Go to read verse 30.
The book of Genesis, chapter 19, verse 30. And Lot went up out of Zohar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him.
So Lot, he was able to escape Sodom and Gomorrah, a place where homosexuality went rampant, a place where pedophilia was running crazy, a place where child molestation and lesbianism was going absolutely bonkers. Abraham begged the God to save his nephew Lot. And you know what? God had mercy on Lot, and he was able to save Lot and his 2 daughters. Now Lot is now traveling and is going to live in a cave with his 2 daughters. Keep going.
And his 2 daughters with him, for he feared.
Next verse.
Verse 31. And the firstborn said unto the younger.
Now his 2 daughters, the firstborn said to a younger sister,
Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come into us after the manner of all the earth.
Listen, they were worried about having sex, his 2 daughters. His 2 daughters weren't worried about obeying and fearing the Lord. His 2 daughters were worried about them not being able to sleep with a man to get pregnant and keep populating the earth. So listen to what these disgusting daughters of Lot decided to do.
Verse 32. Come, let us make our father drink wine.
They said, let's make up a plan to get our father Lot, who is obeying God's laws, who was taught and raised up by Abraham to obey and follow God's laws. His 2 daughters, they wanted to get their father drunk. Keep going.
And we won't lie with him.
They'll do what?
Lie with him.
That sounds a lot like incest to me. Read it again.
And we will lie with him.
So Lot's two daughters wanted to come up with a plan to get their father drunk and to have sex with their father. That's incest. Now, I don't know about you, but when a father sleeps with his daughter or when a son sleeps with his mother, do y'all know the results if there's a pregnancy? There's a high chance that that child that's born might come out deformed, right? A lot of it may be, you might call it Down syndrome, right? They have the different features of a wide forehead, slanted eyes, right? Well, where do you think Asian people come from?
Right.
Have you ever looked at an Asian recently? Look around Harlem. You might see some Asians walking back and forth. Look at their forehead, how wide and elongated it is. Look at their eyes, how slanted it is. When you go in the history books, they used to call them mongrels because of that. Because of their appearance, they look like they have Down syndrome. That is the result of incest. And this is what his two daughters decided to do. They decided to sleep with their father to get pregnant. Skip down, go to verse 36.
The book of Genesis, chapter 19, verse 36. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father.
They both got pregnant by their dad. These disgusting, disobedient women of daughters of Lot both got pregnant by their father. Keep going.
Verse 37. And the firstborn bare a son and called his name Moab.
Now the first one, his name, the son that first was born, they called him Moab. Those are the Chinese. Those are the Vietnamese. Those are them from Thailand, right? Those are those Asians, right? Keep going.
The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day.
So this was the progenitor of all the Chinese and the Vietnamese and the Taiwanese and the people from Thailand and the Mongolians with Genghis Khan. They come from Moab. Keep going.
Verse 38. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Biami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day.
Go to Psalms 83. Now Ammon is the progenitor of the Japanese, right? Ammon is a progenitor of the so-called Koreans, right? You have all those Asians, they come from the same man Lot, but they're brothers, Moab and Ammon. The Japanese are brothers to the Chinese. The Koreans are brothers to the Vietnamese. The people from Thailand are the same people and relatives of those from Manchuria. The same exact people. There is no difference. Now look at yourself, black man, Hispanic man, right? Do we look like these Asians who look like they have Down syndrome? Do we look like these Asians who have elongated foreheads where you can put 8 fingers on their forehead and you can still keep going? Right? Do we look like we have slanted eyes like these disgusting, filthy heathens? We're not. So why would we let filthy, disgusting heathens govern over us? Why would we let filthy, disgusting heathens police our communities? You tell me what Ching Ling Ming and Wang Ting Tong has to move roaches out of their cocoa pebbles in the projects? Which one? Which Lu Meng Sung Chan and Kang Ging Man, which one of them has to step over piss into their project elevator? Which one? None of them do. None of them live with you. None of them go through the things you go through because they're not God's chosen people. They're not God's chosen people. Just like white people. They're filthy and disgusting. They're not God's chosen people. Just like Africans. They're filthy and disgusting, and they're not God's chosen people. But today, we're talking about Asians. We're talking about all the Indians that smell like curry and can't cook curry right. We're talking about all those from Sri Lanka and Thailand and Vietnam. We're talking about them today. Because they have joined hand in hand with the white man to oppress us. If you don't believe me, it's in the Bible. Go to verse 2.
Book of Psalms, chapter 83, verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
For lo, our enemies make a tumult. Asians are our enemies. The white man and his white woman and that filthy, disgusting dog of a son and daughter, they're our enemies.
Right.
These Africans, they're our enemies.
Right.
They're your enemies. But they come together and they make a tumult. They make a loud commotion. Keep going.
And they that hate thee.
And they that hate thee. These people, these Asians, they hate God. That's why Lot's two daughters slept with their father. These Asians, they hate God. That's why they eat rat, cat, and dog, and bat, right? These Asians, they hate God. Because if they didn't, then they wouldn't be stealing from the greatest people on earth. That's you, black man and Hispanic man. They wouldn't be stealing from you. They wouldn't claim to make the best fried chicken when my grandmother makes the best fried chicken, when your aunt makes the best fried chicken, right? Keep going.
And they hate thee have lifted up the head.
And guess what? They lifted up their head above yours because they look down on us. When an Asian man can put a black woman in a chokehold and squeeze, that's because they think they're above you. When an Asian man, forget the Asian man, when that disgusting flat-bodied of an Asian woman can throw acetone and beat your sisters with broomsticks in the nail salon, that's because they think they're better than you. Have you ever seen an Asian woman? I have not seen not one beautiful Asian woman on earth. But have you seen Harlem lately? Filled with beautiful black women. Not white women because they're ugly and disgusting. Filled with Hispanic women because they're beautiful. Not filled with Africans because they look nothing like us. Have you ever seen a Native American with her long hair and olive complexion skin? She is gorgeous. But when you look at an Asian, it's like yellow. It's like a yellow tint. It looks like puke. Like they're sick, like they're about to throw up. That's that paleness you get in your face. That's Asians. But they think they're better than you. They have lifted up their head. And that's why there's no justice when they harm us. That's why Kid Gurley's a killer, because he's a killer. Peter Lang, that sissy, right? He only did 800 hours of community service. And it's like, what, 5 months of probation. After murdering Kid Gurley, Phillip Wong, he just pleaded guilty. He's only going to do a couple of 100 hours of community service and 6-month probation. And you know how much he got paid last year? Over $100,000. Brother, how much you get paid every year? Do you get paid $100,000? Because I don't. Do you get paid $100,000? He got paid to beat our people. And he's only going to do probation. He's only going to have to do a couple of 100 hours of community service. And here we are trying to struggle to make meals for our families. And he's getting paid over $100,000 a year. Peter Liang, when he got into a little issue, right, for murdering a Kid Gurley, he was on modified duty. He was still getting paid. While we waited for a sentence where our own people, the prosecutor, Ken Thompson, he ended up writing a letter to get the verdict overturned. So Peter Lang wasn't convicted for manslaughter. He was convicted from criminal negligence. Right? Counsel, read.
Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel.
They've taken crafty counsel. These filthy, disgusting Asians had gotten together with Africans and Arabs and East Indians and with the white man to all come together. Like, imagine going to a boardroom meeting and everyone's around the table to talk about the same thing. That's what these Asians did. They came together amongst themselves. They come together with all the other races of people that oppress us. Keep going.
And consulted against thy hidden one.
And they have come together to talk about how to destroy us. Selling us rat, cat, and dog in disguise of Chinese food is how they destroy us. Because the Bible doesn't say to eat cats, rats, and dogs. Those are unlawful things to eat. Right? They come together to sell you weave, to sell you blonde weave so you can destroy yourself. Don't you know blonde hair is abominable and unclean according to the Bible? Right? Did y'all not know I guess Pastor T.D. Jakes didn't teach you that. Or Eddie Long didn't teach you that. Or what about that famous white boy, Joel Osteen? Yeah, he doesn't teach you that because he wants your money. So he can hide behind his toilet walls. Right? Keep going.
Verse 4. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
Asians don't want black, Hispanic, and Native American people to be the nation of Israel. They don't want us to be the greatest people on earth. So they come together on how to cut us off, on how to destroy us, on how to pollute our communities. And now we got Asian police officers who are throwing your sons over cop cars, who are putting your daughters up against walls and groping them because they're sexual deviants just like white people. Right. Don't you know one of the biggest homosexuals are those Asians in Vietnam and Thailand? They're big homosexuals, big transsexuals, because they don't obey God. Keep going. Right.
That the name of Israel be no more in remembrance.
They don't want Yasharallah, Israel in Hebrew, to be in remembrance by you, by you, by you, by you, by you, by you. They don't want us, for us to remember who we really are. So they sell you cat and call it chicken. So they sell you dog and call it beef tips, right? Keep going.
Verse 5. For they have consulted together.
They consulted together. These disgusting, wide forehead Asians have consulted together with white people, with the Arabs, with the Africans. Keep going.
With one consent.
With one agreement. They all came to the same conclusion. We must destroy black people.
No cowards in our camp, that'll let their colors fly.
I.S.U.P.K. 53rd Annual Lord Passover.
53rd Annual Lord's Passover is going to be held down here in Florida.
It's going down.
You're here tonight to get a chance to be righteous enough to be worthy of God coming to save you and your
That's right.
It's going down. The Lord's 53rd Annual Passover.
When we say we no cowards, we stop that business. We no cowards up in here.
Book your hotels now at the Holiday Inn Express and Suites, the IHG Hotel, 301 Tucker Lane, Cocoa Beach, Florida, 32926.
Here's a lot of men down. You dealing with the men of war. We at war. I sided with the Lord of Lords.
Y'all see this?
Comes with all your dishes, pots, pans, forks, knives.
I kind of like this. This is like an apartment and a hotel room. You know what I mean? Yeah. This here, right here, about to be holy ground. It's gonna be holy ground. All our beautiful, wonderful brothers and sisters from all over the world. You understand? We can boast that now. Brothers and sisters coming not only from every state, but from all over the world. I heard the numbers this year is ridiculous. We had to buy out the whole hotel.
Friday, April 15th at the Space Coast Convention Center.
My camp undefeated. You cannot debate. You just want the clout. We just want the grades. I'm just trying to get it.
This is going to be glorious.
My West in my blood, I'm a U.P.K. creation. We don't give a